Germany is one of Europe's most secular nations, where only 5% of people attend church. Yet, in the heart of Duisburg, a congregation led by a truck mechanic with no formal ministry training has outgrown every obstacle to become the city's largest and fastest-growing church. How did Vera Forum thrive under pressure so intense that its founder says it eclipsed Soviet persecution? The story begins with a question the authorities never expected. What happens when success itself becomes a crime? In Duisburg, a city shaped by industry and migration, religious life barely registers in the public square. National surveys show that only 5% of Germans attend church services on a regular basis. In a country of over 80 million, that means most sanctuaries stand half empty, and faith communities shrink with each passing year. Against this backdrop, the scale of Vera Forum stands out as an anomaly. More than 1,000 people gather each Sunday, spread across 4 locations, for worship that lasts the entire day. These numbers are not just unusual, they are almost unheard of in modern Germany, where many congregations struggle to fill even a handful of pews. The city of Duisburg itself mirrors the national trend, a diverse post-industrial landscape where religious practice is often seen as a private matter if it is seen at all. Yet within this secular environment, Vera Forum has become the largest church in the city. Its attendance rivals that of some of the oldest cathedrals in the region, drawing both long-settled residents and recent arrivals. The congregation's growth defies the expectations set by national statistics and local custom alike. For many Germans, the very existence of such a thriving church raises questions. In a society where public expressions of faith are rare, and where suspicion often falls on groups that grow too quickly, Vera Forum's size alone invites scrutiny. The numbers tell a story of exception, a church that has not only survived in a secular age, but has flourished against the odds. Alexander E.P.'s journey to Duisburg began thousands of kilometers east, in the shadows of the Soviet Union. Born into a family of ethnic Germans, he spent his early years under the watchful eye of the KGB, where open faith meant risking interrogation or worse. In the 1980s, he arrived in Germany with little more than his trade as a truck mechanic and a deep sense of calling. There was no formal seminary training, no denominational backing, just a conviction that his new home needed a place for Russian-German immigrants to belong. The ministry that took root was shaped by those origins. Services at Vera Forum are conducted in both Russian and German, drawing together newcomers and longtime residents. Sundays begin in the morning and stretch late into the evening, with worship, teaching, and meals shared around long tables. The experience is as much about community as it is about doctrine, a rhythm of faith that echoes the extended gatherings of home churches in the Soviet era, where believers found strength in each other. E.P.'s leadership is grounded in the memory of what it meant to practice faith under suspicion. He often repeats the church's motto, "Come to our building, touch it and listen to the story of how it was built, then you will believe." This invitation is more than a slogan. It reflects a belief that the physical space, raised by the hands of its members, stands as living proof of perseverance. For many in the congregation, the story of Vera Forum is inseparable from the story of its pastor, a man shaped by surveillance and migration, now guiding a church that refuses to shrink in the face of scrutiny. Affordable land seemed like an answer for Vera Forum's growing congregation, but the first hurdle came from beneath their feet. An environmental assessment required before construction found the soil heavily contaminated, a legacy of Duisburg's industrial past. The official report listed toxins at levels that would demand costly remediation, far beyond the church's means. For many congregations, this would have ended the project. Instead, church members gathered on the property, forming a circle that stretched along the boundary lines. Holding hands, they prayed aloud, asking for the ground itself to be healed. No bulldozers arrived, and no chemicals were poured into the earth. The only intervention was collective prayer. A second environmental company was commissioned to test the soil. This time, the report came back clean. According to the documentation, there were no detectable toxins. The two assessments, conducted by different firms using standard sampling protocols, stood in stark contrast. No remediation took place between tests. The only change was the day the congregation gathered to pray. The church kept both reports side by side as evidence of what they believe happened. For some, the explanation rests in faith. For others, the answer may be in the details of lab work and testing methods. Either way, the story of the soil became a touchstone for how Vera Forum understands its own journey, a collision of faith, science, and the unexplained. The official letter from Duisburg's city office arrived with a single sentence. The building permit for Vera Forum's new sanctuary was denied. No explanation about zoning, no offer to reconsider, just a closed door. For a congregation already used to skepticism, the message was clear: growth would not be welcomed. Church leaders searched for a way forward. They reorganized the community under a tax-free religious status, sidestepping the original permit pathway and opening themselves to even more scrutiny. With legal hurdles cleared, attention turned to financing. Applications went out to every major bank in the region, including Sparkasse and Volksbank, as well as small neighborhood lenders. Each response came back the same. Loans were declined. No loan, no explanation beyond vague references to reputational risk. Stacks of rejection letters began to pile up. With no bank willing to help, the congregation faced a choice: abandon the project or build it themselves. They chose the latter. Over the next several years, church members became carpenters, electricians, and masons. Volunteer logs tracked thousands of hours donated after work and on weekends. Parents brought children to sweep up sawdust, while others hauled bricks and mixed concrete. Progress moved slowly, measured in sweat and shared meals rather than bank transfers. The building rose not from outside investment, but from the hands of those who planned to worship inside. Every beam, every wall carried the mark of a community determined to outlast suspicion. By the time the sanctuary opened its doors, it stood as the product of years of unpaid labor and collective resolve, a physical answer to every letter that said no. Before sunrise, police tactical units arrived at the home of Pastor Alexander E.P. The raid began with explosive charges that tore the front door from its hinges. Masked officers stormed inside with automatic weapons drawn. In the confusion, Alexander E.P. believed his family was under attack. He tried to shield his wife Irina, but an officer struck him with a blow that broke his nose and left his eye bloodied. While he lay on the floor, bleeding and disoriented, he called out, "Jesus, help me." An officer responded, "Jesus is not going to help you." Officers pointed a machine gun at Irina, who later required hospital treatment for trauma. Alexander E.P. was handcuffed, taken from his home, and transported to the Vera Forum church building. There, officers broke through doors and searched the premises, seizing every computer and electronic device. Documentation from the day lists the items removed and the injuries sustained. After a full investigation, no illegal firearm was found. Authorities filed a charge of resisting police against Alexander E.P. Despite the false accusation and medical evidence of injury, Duisburg police issued no apology, offered no compensation, and declined to answer questions from the press. Local headlines about the raid reached neighborhoods far beyond Duisburg's Russian-German community. Within days, unfamiliar faces began appearing at Sunday services, some drawn by curiosity, others by a sense of solidarity. Attendance logs show a surge that outpaced even the church's most optimistic projections. In the months following the incident, Vera Forum's weekly numbers grew by several hundred, with visitors citing news coverage as their first introduction to the church. Walter E.P., the pastor's son, described the experience as an attempt to silence the congregation. He said it seemed like a big project just to intimidate us because we are maybe the biggest church here in Duisburg and the fastest growing. Instead, the publicity only widened their reach. The church's media team responded with new videos and online posts addressing accusations of being a cult. Their website featured statements about transparency, voluntary participation, and open-door policies, messages crafted to answer the skepticism that comes with rapid growth. For Vera Forum, the episode became proof that adversity could open doors, not close them. In a country where suspicion shadows faith, Vera Forum stands as proof that pressure can spark growth, not silence. Institutional resistance hasn't stopped Germany's largest church in Duisburg. As scrutiny intensifies, the real question is this: when belief is tested, what rises, fear or resolve? Share your thoughts below.